Hello, good evening. Welcome to Prime Business with me, Pius Kojo Baka. To the details. Fitch Solutions is forecasting a steady policy rate of 30% by the Bank of Ghana at its next meeting in September 2023. It, however, believes that the central bank will commence a monetary easing cycle in the fourth quarter of 2023 as inflation will moderate rapidly towards the end of 2023. Here is more.
In its latest report on Ghana, the UK-based firm said the Bank of Ghana will keep the policy rate on hold at its next Monetary Policy Committee meeting in September. It believes the regulator of the banking industry will commence a monetary easing cycle in the fourth quarter of 2023, cutting the benchmark policy rate by 200 basis points to 28% by the end of the year. Fitch Solutions furthered that inflation will moderate rapidly in the fourth quarter of 2023 as a result of favorable base effects. The cedi sold off rapidly in the fourth quarter of 2023, suggesting that the currency will be significantly stronger in the last quarter of this year, sharply reducing imported pressures on a year-on-year basis. This Fitch Solutions report said it informs its forecast that inflation will fall below the 30% mark by November. It means real interest rates will return to positive territory for the first time since January 2022. As a result, it expects the central bank to adopt a more relaxed monetary policy stance at the last MPC meeting of 2023.
Now, the economy continues to show signs of recovery with activities in some sectors picking up. This is based on analysis of fresh data from the Bank of Ghana. George Yafe has the rest of the story.
There were concerns that the pickup in the first quarter of this year could be slowing down in the second half. This was based on fears that we might be hit by the aftershocks of the domestic debt exchange program. But a careful look at the numbers showed that the recovery has been sustained, but maybe at a slower pace. Port activities, which was a major challenge coming from last year, is also picking up, a development that could impact on revenue and tax collections. Another major indicator, that is the Bank of Ghana's Real Composite Index of Economic Activities, have witnessed some marginal growth. Domestic VAT collections, industrial consumption of electricity and exports are posting some interesting numbers, which will weigh on the larger economy to aid this recovery. The Ghana cedi has consolidated gains made from June this year and is projected to remain strong in the coming months based on the expected donor inflows. However, some have argued that sustaining this recovery will be based on how government carefully sticks to implementing the IMF program, as well as being disciplined with its expenditure. The World Bank is projecting that the Ghanaian economy should recover strongly from 2025. The bank's country director, in an interview with the BBC, has maintained that the institution itself is surprised about the pace of recovery, especially for an economy that is undergoing a debt exchange program.
Now, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana is warning Ghana is likely to be hit with shortage of onions on the market due to a coup in Niger. The country imports about $36 to $40 million worth of onions annually from Nigeria, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Soldiers yesterday went on national TV in Niger announcing that they have carried a coup. This has sparked condemnation and renewed uncertainty in a volatile part of Africa beset by coups and militant extremism. Now, speaking on a possible implication of this on Ghana's onion market, Chief Executive Officer of Agribusiness Ghana, Anthony Morrison, called for an urgent intervention to prevent scarcity of the vegetable.
This coup has happened in Niger. It happened yesterday. But Australia, we are looking at a global market value of over $42 billion. And Ghana imports close to about $36 to $40 million worth of onion annually. We import from Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, and sometimes also take from Netherlands, South Africa, and the US, and China. But these are very small quantities. We do produce some onion in Ghana, especially in the Boku. So you have the Boku red onions, which are normally done in the dry season. But the fact that we import such a huge quantity from Niger gives us a worry and the concern that we may be seeing some increases in the onion prices. But we do hope also that we do have enough stock on the market that could contain the situation for at least for the next 2 weeks. We do not know if our traders will be able to go to Niger to buy onion with the current security situation. So we will have to dialogue with the national security and all the ECOWAS protocols to see how this food trade could be possible.
And to some other stories, the Director General of the West African Monetary Institute is calling for infrastructural development of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, otherwise known as PAPS, for ECOWAS member states. According to him, the initiative, which is expected to reduce the cost and accelerate settlement and payment of trade transactions, is on course and must be supported across the continent. He was speaking at the first edition of the Currency Development Dialogue Series at the University of Professional Studies, Accra.
No, capacity building, this is in all sectors. If we look at all the 46 sectors we have in all the various economies, the people they don't have enough skill to be able to develop those sectors. If we look at financial area now, we are building capacity in debt market, we are building capacity in UBI, that is a Unique Bank Identification. We are building capacities in the area of bank and non-bank initiative. We are building capacity in capital markets and domestic debt market. Because some of the stakeholders, about 2 weeks ago, we met in Ghana here, and it was capacity building, sensitization on security trading. You talk about listing, you talk about transaction, you talk about trading, and you need to build the capacity of all the stakeholders, all the relevant stakeholders, so that this exercise can go on seamlessly.
Now, players in the hospitality industry are calling on the Ghana Tourism Authority to streamline activities of Airbnb operators. The Airbnb operators have been accused of advertising spaces to customers that do not meet the demands of clients when they arrive at the premises. Edward Akanyamike Jr. is president of the Ghana Hotels Association.
To begin with, there are security issues when it comes to accommodation. There are safety issues when it comes to accommodation. There are revenue issues in terms of taxes as well. Okay, so with all these, and then of course there are regulatory issues as well. Airbnb is not captured by any of this, which means that when an international visitor comes to the country and they uses the services of Airbnb and something goes wrong, it tarnishes the image of the country, it affects our tourism destination campaign, it affects our numbers as well, and of course it tarnishes the image of the accommodation industry. You know that Airbnb has been in the system for the past 2008. I mean, talking about the global Airbnb. I don't know how long it has been in Ghana. But this is a conversation that has gone on for quite some time, and I think we've gotten to a point where we need to deal with it. Frankly, I don't even know whether it comes under the Ghana Tourism Authority or it comes under red control, because there are implications based on where each system controls. But if it's under the tourism industry, then it will be treated specifically as an accommodation enterprise. And that's where the regulation about the EPAs and the FDA, data protection, and then the Ghana Tourism Authority itself comes in. Okay, so we need to decide where it belongs and then apply. If it even goes under rent control, then there are revenue issues there, because they are not paying taxes, they are not paying anything to the government. And this is the time we're all crying about revenue. So we need to sit down and decide where this business belongs, and then we deal with it.
Now, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, has touted the sound investment opportunities in the region, especially in the real estate and hospitality industries. It says the sectors are receiving some support from government through the economy, though the economy, I beg your pardon, is bedeviled with debt servicing and other capital expenditure challenges. Now, the minister believes private investments in housing and tourism will be profitable to investors. There is more in this report.
The real estate sector and hospitality industries have not been spared the brutal effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The slow economic growth has compounded the challenges. However, the country's increasing urbanization rates will require significant investment in housing and the hospitality sector. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah wants the private sector to take up the task of property development to accommodate the speedy rise of population. He was speaking at the grand opening of Veronique Heights Apartments in Kumasi.
It presents a lot of opportunities for real estate development in country, and especially the Ashanti region. As you might be aware, when you come to Ashanti region, especially Kumasi, we don't have such furnished apartments, many of them. We have just some few. So adding this one to the few that we have in this region is going to boost the tourism and then the hospitality industry. The standard is very high. You can find a standard to be equal to whatever you find across the group. Anytime I find the private sector developing like this, I'm very happy because they are contributing towards the fast development of the country.
The Veronique Heights Apartments contains fully furnished service apartments for rent, short or long-term stay. Asante Hene's Hiahene or Heneba Professor Boachi Eji Abebiu observed similar apartments in the Kumasi metropolis have fallen apart as a result of poor maintenance. He wants Veronique Heights to live up to its name.
We've seen how so many complexes and structures and industries and organizations have been established, but they didn't live to last as long as we had hoped for. Maintenance is very critical to sustain any development.
Chief Executive Officer of Veronique Heights, Ernest Sahene, says such ultra-modern and multi-purpose apartment with attractive scenery will give Kumasi a facelift.
The construction of Veronique Heights is meant to give Kumasi a difference in the apartment service industry.
For Joy Business, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
The United Nations Development Programme is embarking on an economic impact initiative with the Denmark Embassy to address concerns of radicalization in the 5 northern regions. The initiative targeted at the youth and women will provide job opportunities to beneficiaries and help them earn some income in order to avoid extremism and movement of terrorists. Here is more.
The Economic Impact Initiative will ensure that high unemployment rate in the 5 regions of the north are addressed in order to control the flow of terrorists into the regions. According to the United Nations Development Programme, economic challenges linked to unemployment are identified as one of the issues driving extremism and other social vices. Country representative of the UNDP, Angela Lusigi, spoke to journalists after launching the initiative in Accra.
It's not only of spillovers that are coming from across the border, but also some of the socio-economic and other risk factors that they're experiencing. Unemployment, also exposure to local conflicts, and there's a host of issues that are making these communities vulnerable. So this project is very important because it's trying to address these localized drivers of radicalization. So for instance, working with the communities to see how we can strengthen the early warning system so they understand what terrorism is and they also understand how they can respond. But also it's looking at how we can address some of the messages that the communities are getting so that they're able to understand and come up with counter messages against radicalization. And here we're working very much with the young people, but also looking at the resilience. So we understand that economic issues are some of the localized drivers of radicalization. So working with youth and women entrepreneurs to try and identify opportunities where people can secure their livelihoods and make them less vulnerable to terrorism and extremism.
Danish ambassador to Ghana, Tom Noring, justified the support his country and the European Union is giving to the initiative.
EU is very active, that most of the support financial support that the EU is giving in part of its 7-year plan for the first 3 years is actually directed at the north, whether it's to support agricultural programs, educational programs, infrastructure programs. Most of the EU funds are actually directed to the north for the same reason, to ensure that they're not falling behind. So things are happening. We also need to get that message across to the people in the north, to the young people especially, that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. Because right now, as we've seen, Ghana has been through a very, very difficult economic development the last year and a half. If you're from the poorest part and you're part of that and you're seeing that it's just going from bad to worse, you may find yourself almost lost. And we want to send a signal through this program, through other programs, that there is hope, there is a future, and you should not give up. You should not give up to radicalization.
This is one of the projects by the UNDP to secure livelihoods of the vulnerable.
I remind that you're still watching Prime Business. Founder of defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi is urging businesses to be innovative and adaptive to changes happening in the economy to remain afloat. According to him, it is critical for businesses to adapt to the changes in the economy while upholding strict business principles. He was speaking at the launch of the 25th anniversary of Fair Green Limited.
Fair Green Limited, an indigenous firm offering tailored information technology solutions, is celebrating 25 years of excellent service to its customers. The company focuses on providing cutting-edge technology and technical support to clients. In an interview, founder of defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi urged businesses to adapt to the changes happening in the economy.
It requires this discipline from the start. You have a right vision and you have a clear mission, what you're going to supply and what you're going to do, and you have to also be innovative and adaptive to the economy. Culture is everything. You know, we have cultures in our system, in our environment, that are very negative when it comes to developing companies. I think the culture is so important, because if you don't, I see a lot of Ghanaian companies, the workers are interested in the clients more than the company. So you give a worker a little bit of tip and be nice to the client, and he or she will steal from the very company he's working for to the benefit of the client because of the small tip that you give. And it's quite rampant in Ghana, and companies should strive at creating this bond within a family, sharing the vision, where they're going to go, and caring for each other, so that the interests of the workers are aligned to the interests of the company.
Chief Executive of Fair Green Limited, Gifty Boyan, added that the company will continue to improve on the technological solutions offered to its clients in the coming years.
We're in the technology space, and everybody knows how technology is moving so fast. So for us, our aim is to learn to keep up so that we continue to stay relevant. The way we weather the storm of competition is, being aware of what's going on and really listening to our customers. So if you listen carefully to your customers and you are able to define what their pain points are, what their requirements and the solutions that is required, you are able to, if of course you have educated yourself and kept abreast with the trends in technology, you are able to put a solution together that, takes care of their difficulties and their pain points.
The company was aimed to ensure the growth and development of its staff to sustain the business.
Thanks so much for your company. I am Pius Kojo Baka. I leave you with some international business news. Do enjoy.